Most people see rust. Restorers see order waiting to be restored. That difference is not mechanical, it's psychological. Walk into a garage and stand in front of a 1967 Mustang that hasn't run in decades. Dust coats the body, the paint has blistered, the engine is silent. For most observers, it's obsolete, replaceable, a relic. But for the restorer, it is not junk. It is potential structured in reverse. This tells us something fundamental about how certain minds process decay. Classic car restoration consistently attracts individuals high in conscientiousness, a personality trait strongly associated with discipline, persistence, and long-term goal orientation. But conscientiousness alone doesn't explain the attraction, because restoration is not efficient. It is slow. It is frustrating. It is uncertain. In a world built around instant gratification, one-click purchases, same-day shipping, algorithmic convenience, restoration demands the opposite orientation. It demands tolerance for friction, and tolerance for friction is increasingly rare. Psychologically, humans derive deeper satisfaction from effortful mastery than from passive consumption. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's research on flow state demonstrated that peak fulfillment occurs when challenge and skill meet at equilibrium. Restoration naturally produces this balance. A seized bolt is not overwhelming, but it demands attention. A carburetor rebuild is not impossible, but it requires learning. The mind narrows. Distractions fade. Time distorts. This is not escapism. It is cognitive regulation. Modern stressors are abstract emails, inflation, political instability, social comparison. They lack clear boundaries. Mechanical problems are contained. They have causes. They have solutions. Embodied cognition research shows that when we engage physically with complex systems, our thinking becomes structured. Hands moving deliberately organizes neural pathways differently than scrolling or typing. Restoration feeds this embodied loop. Every action produces feedback. Turn the wrench. Test the spark. Listen to the engine. The world makes sense inside a machine. There is also something deeper happening. Restoration is an act against entropy. Entropy is the natural drift toward disorder. Left untouched, metal rusts, rubber cracks, wiring corrodes. Systems decay. To restore is to intervene, to interrupt decline. Symbolically, that matters. Humans are wired to resist loss of structure. When life feels unpredictable, economically, socially, technologically, rebuilding something tangible reasserts order. You cannot control global markets, but you can rewire a dashboard. Self-determination theory identifies autonomy as one of 3 core psychological needs. Restoration offers autonomy in pure form. No supervisor dictates the pace. No algorithm gamifies the effort. No notification interrupts the task unless you allow it. You decide the path. Original factory specification or creative modification. The project becomes a domain of sovereign control, and sovereign control stabilizes identity. But there is more than control here. There is recognition. The restorer recognizes coherence beneath surface damage. This mirrors an internal cognitive style perceiving potential rather than dismissal. People drawn to restoration often demonstrate high tolerance for complexity. They are not intimidated by layered systems. Instead, they disassemble them mentally, then physically. Break down the engine, clean each part, reassemble with precision. The psychological parallel is clear. Restoration reflects an orientation toward integration. What looks broken can be understood. What is understood can be rebuilt. That belief carries far beyond the garage. Buying something new proves you have money. Restoring something old proves you have competence. That distinction matters more than it appears. Classic car restoration is not just about preference. It is about identity construction through mastery. In personality psychology, there is a difference between performance orientation and mastery orientation. Performance-oriented individuals seek external validation, recognition, status, visible achievement. Mastery-oriented individuals seek internal competence, the quiet confidence of knowing they can solve problems. Restorers overwhelmingly lean toward mastery. Most of their work is invisible. They rebuild internal systems no one at a car show will ever see. They spend weeks correcting alignment tolerances that only they will understand. They fabricate small components hidden behind body panels. This is competence without applause. In a culture increasingly structured around visibility, followers' metrics curated identity restoration offers something profoundly private. It allows identity to be built on skill rather than spectacle. There is also a subtle relationship between restoration and masculinity, not in a stereotypical sense, but in a psychological one. Many restorers are men who grew up in environments where emotional articulation was limited. Mechanical competence became a primary language of self-worth. Fixing was tangible. Emotions were abstract. In developmental psychology, competence is one of the earliest forms of self-definition. I can do this precedes I feel this. When someone masters mechanical systems, they experience structured efficacy. The engine responds to skill. The system rewards patience. That reliability becomes stabilizing. This is particularly powerful in times when institutional trust declines. Over the past decades, many individuals have watched corporations restructure industries collapse and promises shift. Trust in large systems erodes. In response, some people shift trust from institutions to skills. They don't rely on job security. They rely on usefulness. Restoration reinforces this mindset. If you can rebuild an engine from scratch, you internalize a belief, I can create value, independent of systems. That belief is psychologically protective. It reduces dependency anxiety. But there is another layer beneath competence. Repair culture stands in opposition to disposable culture. Modern consumer economies incentivize replacement. When something fails, upgrade it. When it ages, discard it. When a product becomes inconvenient, replace it. Restorers reject this narrative. They see dignity in preservation. This stance is not merely practical. It reflects a deeper cognitive orientation toward continuity rather than novelty. In social psychology, identity strengthens when actions align with values. If someone values sustainability, craftsmanship, and endurance, restoring an object becomes moral expression. You are not just rebuilding a vehicle. You are enacting a worldview. There is also emotional processing happening beneath the surface. Many restorers describe working on a car during periods of transition, divorce, retirement, loss, career shifts. Mechanical focus becomes a stabilizing ritual. When grief feels unstructured, mechanical tasks provide boundaries. Take apart the carburetor. Clean each chamber. Reassemble carefully. Psychologists studying grief regulation note that structured, repetitive tasks help the nervous system process distress indirectly. It is not that the person is ignoring emotion. It is that emotion is metabolized through action. The car becomes a companion in transition. Object relations theory suggests that humans attach symbolic meaning to objects as extensions of relational memory. A restored vehicle may represent a father who once drove that model, or a version of self that felt younger, clearer, less fragmented. Restoration becomes relational repair by proxy. Unlike people, machines do not contradict you. They do not abandon you. They do not shift unpredictably. They respond to input. That predictability feels safe, and safety allows integration. There is also a cognitive depth to restoration that is often overlooked. To restore a classic car, one must learn across domains: mechanical engineering, electrical systems, bodywork, paint, chemistry, upholstery, fabrication. This cross-disciplinary learning activates neuroplasticity. Continuous skill acquisition strengthens executive function and working memory. Cognitive psychologists consistently show that complex learning delays cognitive decline and enhances long-term mental flexibility. But beyond neurological benefit lies existential satisfaction. Mastery in the physical world feels real in a way digital achievement often does not. Completing a level in a game produces a momentary dopamine spike. Rebuilding an engine produces durable pride. Because the achievement is tangible. You can touch it. Hear it run, drive it. In a service-dominated economy where output is often intangible, physical creation restores a sense of material contribution. You made something work. That matters. But control has limits. Restorers often prefer environments where outcomes correlate strongly with effort. Machines obey physical laws. They do not reinterpret your intentions. Human systems are messier. And this explains why some restorers feel more comfortable in mechanical spaces than social ones. In machines, clarity dominates. In relationships, ambiguity dominates. Choosing restoration is not necessarily avoidance, but it may be preference for coherence, and coherence stabilizes identity. When the car is finally finished, something unexpected happens. The silence feels heavier than the noise ever did. For many restorers, completion brings pride, but it also brings a subtle emptiness. And that emptiness reveals something important, because restoration was never only about the car, it was about the process. Psychologists studying goal pursuit consistently find that humans attach more meaning to sustained engagement than to static outcomes. During a long-term restoration, daily structure forms around the project. Evenings in the garage, weekends under the hood, small victories measured in millimeters. The project becomes rhythm. When it ends, the rhythm disappears. What remains is a finished object and a quiet. This explains why dedicated restorers rarely stop at one vehicle. They do not crave possession as much as immersion. The flow state, that deep absorption described by Csikszentmihalyi, becomes addictive in a subtle way. Not chemically addictive, but structurally compelling. In flow, the ego quiets. Self-doubt recedes. Attention aligns. Modern life fragments attention constantly. Restoration consolidates it. Completion disrupts that consolidation. But beyond process lies something even deeper: legacy. Humans are uniquely aware of mortality. This awareness drives generativity, the desire to create or preserve something that will outlast us. Psychologist Erik Erikson described generativity as a core developmental task in adulthood. A restored vehicle embodies generativity physically. It survives decades. It moves forward in time. Perhaps it will be passed to a child. Perhaps displayed at a show. Perhaps driven long after the restorer is gone. In this way, restoration defies impermanence. Not symbolically, literally. You extend the life of an object far beyond its expected decay. That act carries existential weight. In a disposable culture where products are designed for obsolescence, restoring something built half a century ago is a quiet rebellion against temporariness. It says durability still matters, craft still matters, time invested still matters. This also explains the intensity of classic car communities. Restoration communities operate under alternative hierarchies. Status is not derived from job titles or income brackets. It comes from knowledge, skill, dedication to authenticity. An individual who understands carburetor tuning at a deep level may command more respect than someone with a prestigious career. Anthropologists studying hobbyist subcultures note that these communities often form parallel value systems. They create belonging not through shared ideology, but through shared craft. Belonging matters. Modern social structures often feel fragmented. Digital interaction replaces physical gathering. Conversations flatten into comments. Car shows swap meets restoration workshops provide embodied community. People stand around an engine and talk. Knowledge transfers person to person. This tactile exchange reinforces identity through shared competence. And unlike many modern spaces, this world values patience over speed. In a garage, rushing creates mistakes. In digital environments, speed is rewarded. Restoration restores temporal balance. It slows time intentionally. That slowing has psychological impact. Research shows that perceived time abundance correlates strongly with life satisfaction. When individuals feel constantly rushed, stress hormones elevate. Restoration projects create extended timelines measured in months or years. There is no algorithm demanding acceleration. The car waits. This waiting may mirror something internal. In existential psychology, meaning often emerges from confronting limitation rather than avoiding it. Restoration confronts limitation directly. Parts are scarce. Metal fatigues. Original blueprints may be incomplete. You must adapt. Adaptation builds humility. Machines resist arrogance. And yet machines also reward dedication. There is a profound metaphor here. You cannot rush restoration. You must respect the system. Perhaps this is why some restorers describe their projects in spiritual language. They speak of bringing it back to life, of honoring the car's history. Such language reveals a need for transcendence. In increasingly secular societies, traditional frameworks for transcendence have weakened. Restoration provides a tangible ritual of renewal. Disassemble, clean, reassemble. Decay reversed, life extended, order reclaimed. And then, when it runs, when the engine turns over cleanly for the first time, the experience is visceral. Sound, vibration, movement. It is not theoretical achievement. It is embodied success. But even here, the psychological cycle continues. Once complete, the project no longer provides daily structure. The garage quiets. The flow state fades. This is why many restorers feel drawn back into the hunt for another project. Not because they are unsatisfied, but because process itself fed something essential. Humans require meaningful challenge. Without it, comfort becomes stagnation. The people who restore classic cars remind us of something fundamental about human psychology. We do not thrive on convenience alone. We thrive on engagement, on friction that sharpens skill, on continuity that connects past to present, on control that grounds us in chaotic times. A restored car is not merely polished metal. It is thousands of hours of applied attention. It is a visible record of patience. It is a statement that time, effort, and care still produce transformation. And perhaps that is the deeper truth. Restoration is not nostalgia for the past. It is resistance to disposability in the present. It is choosing to rebuild rather than replace, to persist rather than abandon, to slow down in a culture accelerating endlessly. That is not just mechanical. It is profoundly human.